Hello, everyone. It is 6:30. I want to thank you all for coming to the April. It's not April quite yet. I'm sorry. The March Mayor Q&A. Sorry, I'm pushing myself a little bit here. I am very pleased to offer you our Police Chief Hill, Brad Hill, and our Fire Chief Ben Stevens. They will be talking about public safety and other items in the city, and then I'm sure they will open it up to the floor for questions. So thank you very much, and let's go ahead and start with Chief Hill.
So I'm gonna do my best to stay seated. All of y'all that know me, I don't like to sit down, especially when I'm talking and doing something. But they said I need to stay with this mic because we're live streamed, and also I don't have a clicker to go through the PowerPoint. So I'm Brad Hill. I'm the chief of Houston Police Department. We've prepared a slideshow presentation for y'all tonight, and then myself and Chief Stephen will take any questions you have, and we will answer it to the best of our abilities. Um, so we'll get started with my slideshow. Can y'all hear me with this? Usually I'm up moving around when I'm instructing, when I'm talking, so it's going to be real unnatural to sit still. So the first slide, this is probably a 1980 something model Ford Crown Victoria, or one of the patrol cars they had. So for those of y'all that don't know, we did have a Houston Police Department for a long time. It was disbanded in 2010. And that was one of their probably 1980 model patrol cars. That picture is hanging up in my office down there. So I am not the first one to start a Houston Police Department. I just restarted. So this is my patrol truck, and Evan, Officer Kessler, who is sitting back there in the back, his vehicle, and that was yesterday with the pretty clouds and the water tower and all. And that was my photography skills. So if y'all want to buy any of my pictures or make a painting out of that, I'll be glad to talk with you later. So, like I say, my name is Brad Hill. I started my career with Jackson County Sheriff's Office in 2001. I worked there for a little over 20 years. I worked the patrol division, jail division, CID, criminal investigations. I was a patrol commander over the shifts for a while. And then in August of 21, I put in for the job to come over here as chief, and took me about 6 months to get all the paperwork together, get the department built up, and we pretty much officially started in January of 2022. So since then, my first employee was Miss Cheryl Davis. She's my court clerk, secretary, do it all, you name it. I call her my work wife, and I have one wife at home and one wife at work, and they both keep me straight. But she retired from the Gwinnett County court system. She handles our court and day-to-day activities down at the police department. Very, very knowledgeable. Right now, she is going through our GCIC training to where we can have our own terminal, run our own tags, histories, all that. She got that thrown on her, and she's doing a really good job with it. So when we first started, y'all know we were down in the flower shop. Since we have moved over here to the old City Hall location. And then my first hire, as far as officer, is Stephen Bradbury. He's a captain. He had 17 years with the sheriff's office, 18 going on 19 now, and he started here in September of 2022. So everybody always asks me, how do we know who that is driving around? So I put a picture of their car on there. Our cars are very distinctive. Stephen is driving the silver one that I originally started with. That's what he drives. The next hire was Officer Evan Kessler. He's sitting in the back there for your viewing pleasure, and he drives my old black Durango. So it's not very old, but we had a light bar put on it for patrol purposes, and he's got 11 to 12 years of law enforcement experience. Worked 10 years with the sheriff's office for starting with me February of last year, so he's been here a little bit over a year at Houston. So if you ever see him out and about, there's his car. So what do we do? We're a full-service police department. We do traffic enforcement. We answer any calls for service that come out in the city. We help the fire departments out. We go to 911 hang-ups, alarms, you name it. We work vehicle accidents. We work special events. We have our own city court here every other month. Judge Green is our judge for now until he becomes a Superior Court judge, and then he has to abandon us. But he's done a wonderful job for us. And also, one of my main things is we patrol the neighborhoods. So if you don't see a patrol car in your neighborhood, they're in there a lot. That's one of my main things is you ride through the neighborhoods, keep the people safe. Don't be out just sitting on 53 running traffic. Run a little traffic and then run through the neighborhoods and make sure somebody's house isn't getting broke into. The top left bolo here is a theft that we had down on Pearl or Merchants Park the other night. So we try and send that out as quick as we can and try and figure out who these people are. This guy stole a pressure washer from behind the business. The bottom left-hand corner is a truck that unfortunately decided to use Peachtree Road and broke down at the same time, so he got towed. Oh, absolutely a ticket. And then Officer Bradbury changing a tire for somebody. So we do help the citizens out in any way. Change tires, get them out of the roadway. So some of the equipment, a lot of people ask, what do we carry? So this is just my truck alone. The top left-hand corner is a crime scene box, and we try and keep everybody outfitted with crime scene materials. It's got a camera in there, fingerprint kit, blood collection, another first aid kit, and then we all carry patrol rifles. I'm big on that. We all have a patrol rifle in our car. So I carry a patrol rifle and a shotgun. And on the other side, these are drawers that slide out in the back of my truck. We have our traffic safety equipment. Those bags you see there are roadside flares, and then the other one is a vehicle unlock kit. And if you look back a little bit more, we have what's called an IFAC. It's a tactical med kit that was donated by West Jackson Fire Department or loaned. I'm not sure if we have to return them at some point in time, but right now they're in our vehicles. Everybody has one of those. They have tourniquets and pressure bandages. The vest you see there that says police on it, that is actually a tactical vest that is rifle proof. So if we have an incident where the subject has a rifle, it has 2 extra magazines in there with 30 rounds and also another tourniquet in that. And then behind that is a fire extinguisher just in case the fire department can't get there in time. We got a fire extinguisher in every vehicle. And that's pretty much the breakdown of everything we carry. And every once in a while, a person in that cage back there. So everybody's saying the pickup truck, how in the world would they want a pickup truck for a police car? Well, there is a cage in there. It's a half cage, so we can transport in it just like a regular vehicle. There's actually more room in the pickup truck than there is in one of the Durangos, and it was a couple $1,000s cheaper to get the pickup over the Durangos. All right, so specialized training, top left-hand corner, that was me going through active shooter training with West Jackson last year. We also do, we just got done doing active shooter and command, high-risk uniform command all together last month because we all do need to work together and be on the same page. So we're doing the best we can in this community to stay on the same page with fire, EMS, and all work together. The other ones are our firearms training. And then all the way over here on the right-hand side, that's me teaching TASER class. I am a Georgia certified law enforcement instructor. I teach firearms, TASER. I teach just about anything you can teach law enforcement. So I try and keep our costs down. I can train our own people in-house, and then they can't come back and say, well, I was trained this way. Well, no, you weren't because I was the one that trained you. So it's a win-win for me and the city because I actually enjoy doing training. I did a lot of it at the sheriff's office. So they asked me to talk a little bit about safety. The biggest thing we're having right now, not necessarily in the city of Houston, but Barrow County just had a rash of them, is entering autos. That's where somebody either at night or while you're parked at Walmart or something goes into your car and steals something. Barrow County had a rash the other night. They got into cars and stole a bunch of guns. That's usually what they're looking for is firearms and pocketbooks. So the best thing to do is to hide your valuables and lock your car up. You wouldn't think that a criminal wouldn't break a window, but in most cases we see where they get a gun or a pocketbook out of a car, they don't break the window because they don't want to make the noise. So if you simply lock your car, they're not going to break the window to get what's in there. Unfortunately, about 8 years ago, my mom took my son fishing at the Jefferson Lake, left her pocketbook in the front seat, and they did break her window and got her pocketbook out. They used her credit card for $700 within 10 minutes. but try and either take your purse with you, your gun with you, take it out, stick it in the house, or if you do have it in your vehicle, keep it out of sight and lock the cars up. Even if it's sitting in your driveway, make sure you lock the car up because these little gangs out of Atlanta are coming up here, and that's what happened in Barrow County. And there's 5 or 6 of them at a time, and they just go to driveways in these subdivisions and pull on the handle to see if the handle will come open. And then they toss the car. They look in the glove box. Anywhere you'd have a gun, they just look through. So if you have that car locked up, it's a lot better and a lot harder for them to get into because most of the time, like I say, they're not going to bust the window and make that noise. Burglary prevention. To report a crime or suspicious activity, the best thing to do is call 911 right off the bat. A lot of y'all have my cell phone number. Sometimes I'm not to where I can be answered. But, you know, if you have something that you need fast, call 911. Same thing for your house. Make sure you keep your doors locked. Make it look like somebody's home. If you go out of town, tell your neighbor that you're going out of town. That way they can keep an eye on your house. It's not a bad idea to have a neighbor go over there and change lights every once in a while. Leave the living room light on, turn it off, go turn the kitchen light on the next day. And just like anything else, hide your valuables where they're not in plain sight. Neighborhood safety, we kind of hit on that. You know, if you're going out by yourself, make sure a family member or neighbor knows where you're at all times and where you're going. Everybody has a cell phone that can be tracked now. Keep your cell phone on you. If you're going out for a walk, keep something to where you can call for 911 if need be. So safe driving, number one, be off your phone. You know, that's the main distraction we have in driving now. Don't have your phone in your hand. Yes, we will stop you for having your phone in your hand. It's supposed to be hands-free. If you're talking on your phone, it needs to be in some type of cradle. Don't drive sleepy or drinking, of course. And, you know, make sure somebody knows where you're at, where you're going, and where you're coming from. Just for fun, this is a few things we've done. Top left-hand corner, that's our first canine dog. That's Miss Cheryl's dog. He comes to visit us every once in a while, so he's the official Houston Police canine. Bradbury's birthday, and then some of y'all may know this convict over here on the right. If you don't know him, he's wearing the attractive shorts back here. To my right, to y'all's left, Crestwind resident. That's the one and only Rich Miller. Just wanted to point that out. You made the presentation. We do like to get out in the community. We're glad to come to any events you want us to. We like to get out and interact with everybody. I'm not hard to find. I think everybody kind of knows I kind of just linger around. And, I try to come to every event I can. So not hard to find at all if y'all ever need me. Like I say, a lot of you have my cell phone number. There's the office number and my email. I can be gotten in touch with pretty much any time. And that's all I have. Oh, we're switching. That's fine. We can do police questions and then fire questions. So does anybody have any questions? Yes, sir. I knew y'all did.
I really don't have a question. I just want to say.
Hold on, you need the mic for audio.
Okay.
We're live streaming.
I'm Rodney Cato. I live in the Villages. Make it work. Boo. I'm Rodney Cato. I live down in the Villages right here. And when the city, am I doing it again? Okay. When the city first started having a police force, I was against it. I didn't think we needed. Okay. All right. Fine. Okay. I was against it. I didn't think we needed one. I came from Snellville but anyway, long story short is I've changed my mind. I've known Brad almost from the time he moved in here, and just in our subdivision alone, there have been 3 or 4 or 5 instances that he's had to come and take care of, and some of them are pretty serious. And then one of them, my wife got threatened, and he took care of that. So anyway, I'm glad you're here, and I'm glad you got a good service and good officers. I've met most of them, and I appreciate everything you do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Chief. First of all, thanks for your service that you provide to the city. And
Yes, sir.
Debbie, you knew I was going to have questions. I always got questions. I got 2 questions for you, Chief. The city is working hard on preparing a long-term budget. What kind of high expenditure items do you foresee your department needing in the next 5, 10 years? And do you think the city is prepared for you to make those kind of expenditures?
I think absolutely they are. You know, the main thing, the main police budget is personnel, like anywhere else, and we'll eventually get there, and you know we're going to get to where we have to be a 24-hour service, and we will get there. It just takes the time to grow the department, and we're moving in the right direction. I don't see us stepping back at all. I think we're moving in the right direction. Of course, when you add personnel, you have to add vehicles. But we have plenty of office space. We don't need a new office. We have plenty of office space. The equipment, we're working on a few donations, and of course, I'm going to be looking for grants here summertime. So I think we're fine. I think we're moving in the right direction.
The second question I have is, could you just go into a little bit of the detail on your relationship with the county sheriff's department and how they pick up when your force is not on duty?
So they do. Fortunately, they don't have to cover very much anymore. You know, we're pretty much here. I don't want to give the times, but we're pretty much here pretty late. So they, you know, I'm trying to be here at 7 o'clock every morning. I'm usually around the city by 7 o'clock or just a little bit after. So there's a very short period that they have to cover. And if anything happens during that period, they call me anyway, besides like an alarm or something very minor. But if they come to anything major during the middle of the night, they call me anyway. And either I come in or I keep somebody on call 24 hours a day. One of us are on call. We take a call week each. So somebody's on call 24 hours a day. So if something was to happen and we need to come back, I assure that somebody's on call. Somebody's coming back to the city, whether it be myself or one of the other officers.
Okay. And my last question is, I got one of those credit check things because my data got breached a while back, and I was surprised. On there it has tells you registered sex offenders within your area.
Correct.
And I noticed that within the city limits, and I guess I was naive, but there are several that are in the city limits. And what's your visibility on those? You know, over on the other side of town, our population is a little bit older. We have a lot of widows over there, so I have that genuine concern. And then I know in our neighborhood, I think last month there was a young man who assaulted, I guess, I saw it in the paper, you know, his parents.
His grandparents.
Okay, yeah. So just what kind of visibility do you have on those offenders, if anything?
So we do keep an eye on them, and then the sheriff's office actually has a sex offender unit, and the sheriff's office is mandated to go out and check those sex offenders so many times a year and make sure they are, in fact, staying where they're supposed to be. And then right before Halloween, they have to be checked to be told they can't be out handing out candy and all that. And then we also keep a sex offender registry here at the city.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Richard Green. I'm a believer too. I wasn't at first. Yeah, I wasn't. Now? I wasn't at first. I didn't think we needed our own police department back, but I do now. And I appreciate it's still kind of a small town effect. I grew up in New York City, and New York City cops don't stop to say hello. You never know who they are. They never really get out in the community. They just kind of patrol in their car. My son's back up there now, and he tells me the same. It's like almost an armed camp. There's them and there's us, and hostility is very prevalent. But a couple of questions. The first question is, I don't know if you can answer it. How big do you think the department is going to get? How are you planning for that? I mean, do you envision like, I don't know, 20 officers in 5 years, or how's that going to play out?
I don't think we'll ever see 20 officers in 5 years. You know, to cover the shifts that we need to cover within a 5-year plan, I think would be at, 10 officers max, and that would cover what we need to cover.
Yeah. I guess it depends on how big Houston gets.
Yes, sir. How fast the growth happens.
Yeah. My second question or comment is, I had no idea you carried that kind of medical equipment in a police car.
Yes.
So if I dial 911 because, let's say, I'm having chest pain, do you respond, or is it who responds?
So that would be the fire department and EMS, but dispatch does tell us of all med calls and fire calls in the city. Well, I say that. Most of the time, they're good about telling us where the fire department's going, and generally, if it's something we think we need to go with them to, we go. But they're a whole lot quicker than we are as far as medical response. We're just kind of like, I would call it tactical medical or something, you know. Now, if we show up on a car wreck or something, yes, we will render aid until the fire department gets there. But, with the staffing of West Jackson Fire Department, they're usually there either before us or at the same time.
Yeah. Okay.
So our main job, say on a wreck scene or even a cardiac arrest, is just to maintain order more than it is provide medical treatment. But trust me, if something goes wrong with you and they're not around, I'll do my best to help you.
Oh, I know you will.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
I actually have a couple questions. I noticed when I was at Publix picking up a prescription the other day, myself and anybody can buy, is it Narcan?
Narcan.
Narcan. Do you carry that in the car?
We do not have it in our car. We have it in the office. It's another one of those things to where, West Jackson's so close. They're usually there at the same time we are. And they carry it.
I mean, you could buy them at CVS or Publix. I would think we should all carry it, honestly. Thank you. The second question is regarding traffic. I know, and I hope most of you know, Chief Hill helps the school traffic in the morning and the afternoon?
Just the morning.
Just the morning. And we also have a sheriff who is directing traffic or guiding traffic on 53. Chief Hill is more at the school area, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes, ma'am.
And we have sheriff that is paid for by the school on 53. What impact is that potential charter school traffic going to cause yourself? Chief Stevens, the same question will come to you either now or when you speak, and the sheriff that's out there directing traffic.
So he will catch the blunt of that.
Sure.
Of course, it's going to back traffic up into the city, which is going to possibly cause more accidents in the city, people not paying attention and running into the back of each other. Because, for instance, yesterday morning, right before we ate at the cafe on our usual Wednesday mornings, it was backed up all the way to Houston Hardware. I mean, it was just already before charter school, it was backed up all the way to Houston Hardware yesterday morning. So it is going to impact traffic. It's going to create a lot more, because you're adding, they're talking about 500 to 700 kids to that school that will have to provide transportation.
Yeah, I think the numbers that can take is 724 for the school.
Absolutely. But
So
the
that
officer
affects
there now will have a 4-way intersection to work instead of just having a 3-way, because he's going to have
so
to bring
dangerous.
cars out of that school also. So now he's got a 4-way instead of just a 3-way intersection that he usually works.
And then one last comment or question. Did you want to tell the residents about what Kroger is providing for the police department?
Yes.
You want to talk about that?
So Kroger is part of their, stipulations to build in the city. I requested that they donate and provide funds for 2 flock cameras on Highway 53, one south and one north. So if you don't know what a flock camera is, it's an automatic tag reader that reads your tag when you go by, and it gives us a picture of the vehicle. We use it a lot. If you go back to that Bolo I had out of that truck, I can go into the flock system and I can put white Ford truck, and it'll tell me every white Ford truck that went through the city for whatever dates and times I put in there, and it'll give me the tag number, description, and then I can go on GCIC and run that tag number and figure out who owns that truck. But it gives me a detailed picture of it. So it's just another tool. You know, technology is getting better, and in law enforcement, we need to utilize it. We also have talked about tag readers for the cars. That's another thing I want to look into. They're expensive. They're $20,000 for one tag reader, but it allows us to sit on Highway 53 here and get any type of equipment violations that are wrong with that tag. It'll tell us if there's wanted people. So, you know, if we got somebody wanted for murder, that tag reader will automatically hit on it and tell us that the registered owner of that car is wanted for murder coming through our town.
Mayor, can I make a quick comment real quick? Just so everybody knows how great the flock safety cameras are, they're solving about 10% of crime across the entire country. So very, very powerful tool, and great of Kroger to work with our police department to provide those. Thank you.
Any other questions for me? I knew it. I knew it. Let me get my criminal statute book out. Hang on.
Quiz time. No, I don't have any questions. I just have a comment in regards to, I guess, two comments. First of all, I will jump on what JJ said. We are seeing massive amounts of crime solved with flock cameras, and the response and the access to that database. So for those of you that don't know, a car goes by, the camera will just automatically pick up and read the license plate. And we had a case in Jackson County 2 weeks ago where somebody came in, reported their car stolen. It had been stolen over the weekend. They didn't know if it was stolen Friday night or Saturday morning. It was now Monday afternoon. They entered it as stolen, and within about 15 minutes had a hit on a flock camera in Savannah, and they were able to triangulate exactly where that car was and let law enforcement down there know what was going on. So super helpful. And the other thing is the tag readers. There's several small jurisdictions like Houston. Arcade is the most recent one that went to tag readers on their cars and almost stopping people for speeding because they were getting so many tag reader hits for suspended license. Usually, I don't know what we charge here. I should because I'm the judge. For suspended license tickets, but I know the county it's about it's about a $1,500 fine, and so you don't have to stop too many people for suspended license before that system will pay for itself. So.
Can you introduce yourself, please?
So they introduced me right before you got here, Scott, but my name is Ben Green. I am the municipal court judge for the city of Houston for, I don't know. I'm not counting down the days, but it's not long at this point. So.
If we don't rig the election. You ready? All right, switcheroo.
All right. Hello. So I'm Ben Stevens. I'm the fire chief at West Jackson Fire Department. Just to start this off, I'd like to thank you all for letting us be a part of this and very quickly introduce the guys that are in the back of the room there. That's the B shift that is assigned to Station 1. Our guys work 24 hours, actually they work 48-hour shifts now, and they're split into 3 different crews, and those 4 are the ones that work in the city of Houston for their 48-hour tour. So that's the captain back there with the nice hair. The guy looks at the Hulk to his right, that he's on our squad, and then the other 2 guys, one of them is the driver to the left of the captain there. He drives the ladder truck, and then the guy to his left, he drives the mini pumper, our squad, and we'll go over some of that stuff as we move along. All right. So start out real quick with the fire district. I'm going to skip over a few things about growth because I think we all know there's a lot of growth here. So the fire district we're separate from Jackson County, separate from the city and the town of Brazelton, but we provide fire protection for all of it. Our fire district is this area of Jackson County. We cover about 30 square miles of the west end of Jackson County. We were constitutionally created for Brazelton and Houston by the state legislature back in the early 70s because there was a funding need for the fire department that existed back then, but we'll get to that. There's fire service for the remainder of Jackson County. So our department is a governmental entity. We're actually the only department like us in the state of Georgia. The City of Commerce and City of Jefferson have their own fire departments as municipalities, and then the remaining districts are incorporated businesses that the Jackson County Board of Education contracts to provide fire protection. Their districts were set up in 1986 by the Jackson County Board of Commissioners. So there's a difference in us and the way the rest of them are established. How do we work together? So our department has automatic aid agreements with our neighboring fire departments. For instance, earlier today, right before I got ready to come here, we were dispatched to a house fire in Brazelton back behind Pilot. They dispatched us, the Jackson Trail Fire Department, and the Correctional Institute, along with an ambulance, was sent to come give us a hand in case it was a real house fire. Turned out it was a scare of smoke. It smelled like they had burned something cooking. I don't think they wanted to admit it to us. I wouldn't either. So, but anyways, and then we also provide and attend training with our neighboring departments so that we can work together more efficiently if there is an incident. We also work with Jackson County EMS, EMA, the Sheriff's Office, and our police departments on training and preparation. In the last year, our department helped Jackson County Sheriff's Office with their alert training for their active shooter drills at Legacy Middle School. We came up to Commerce and helped out the Commerce Police Department with their city school systems plan for this year. And then we worked with our EMS provider in Jackson County to help them on calls. If need be, we'll drive their ambulance to the hospital if there's something serious going on. Because, the thing with the fire department is it's life and property. So the lives are, more important than the property. That's why we put it second. So we have that kind of working relationship with our neighbors. Why is there a fire district? Well, there was a house fire in Houston in 1968, and the community came together to create the West Jackson Fire Department to serve the town and the city. And back then, it was actually it was funded solely by donations and run by volunteers. That picture is the first firefighters for the West Jackson Fire Department. They paid for their own equipment, their own training, their own vehicles. Chicken queues, barbecues, donations, cake walks, the whole thing. And the department actually is older than our district is. The department started in 1968. The district didn't come till the 70s. But who is your fire board? The fire board are elected officials. They're the governing body. They were established by the state legislature in 1974. They're elected to 4-year terms, which are staggered. So there's 3 up for election this year, and then the other 2 will not be up for election for 2 more years. They represent the community in which they reside. For instance, there is a City of Houston representative on the fire board, and he has to live in the City of Houston to be a representative for us. And also by our charter, they are not allowed to be compensated for their service to the district. So they can't be paid for anything they do. So they're a volunteer service. If you can see them, those are the current elected officials. One thing that we do have is we have a good mix of people. Harry Bryan is the City of Houston rep. He actually was a volunteer firefighter with us in the 80s and early 90s and lives right down the road from the school. John Caffin, he is represents the Randolph Militia District Precinct. He is retired from the U.S. Forestry, where he still serves as a member of the National Incident Management Team. So if you have, say, a big fire in South Georgia and the whole world's burning, he's the guy from the federal government that comes down there to assist the local states on how to fight that fire efficiently. Nathan Scott, he's one of our newer members, and he lives in Brazelton, unincorporated, just off of New Cut Road. So he gets to deal with the roundabout they're building at Ednaville and 53. Tim Sweat, he represents unincorporated Houston. He's our chairman, and he actually retired as the safety director for Jackson EMC. So he's very safety mindset when it comes to a lot of things. Tony Harris represents the town of Brazelton. He is the vice chairman, and he works full-time as a firefighter in Forsyth County. And he lives just down the hill from the firehouse that we have here in Houston. All right, what does the board do? Well, they're just like a mayor and council. They appoint and dismiss me, hopefully appoint and keep me. They approve the budget and expenditures. They approve capital projects like our fleet, facilities, and equipment. They approve the millage rate, which is the property tax rate, and they establish the vision for the department. Basically, the way that we talk about elected officials, how government works is, if we were a ship, the crew is the fireman that keeps the ship afloat. I'm the captain who steers the thing and makes sure that they have what they need to get us where we're going, and the elected officials are like my admiralty. They're telling me what port they want me to go to. So, and that's how we work together to function the fire department. We're funded through property taxes. We have a millage rate that you see on your tax bill. The millage rate's approved by our fire board, and then the Jackson County Tax Commissioner collects that property tax and disperses it to the district. Our other revenues are fire prevention fees, donations, and payments in lieu of taxes. A lot of people talk about the distribution centers, and they think they get tax abatements and they don't have to pay any taxes. The last one that the county approved was a pilot, which is the payment in lieu of taxes. So they still paid money to the school, the county, and the fire department over the course of their abatement. It was just staggered. But having a dedicated millage rate means that your fire protection funding is secure. We don't have to share if the road department needs 5 new trucks, but we need a new fire engine. There's no resource fight for us to keep what we need to provide the service that we provide for the city of Houston and the town of Brazelton. So that's another benefit of having us. All right. We also we have a close relationship with our local municipalities and our taxpayers because they live here. If you're trying to find out where your elected official for the town of Brazelton or city of Houston lives, their mailing address is Houston or Brazelton. It's not Athens. It's not Maysville. It's not Jefferson. They're right here. What does that mean for you? It means that they get to sit in the traffic too. They get to deal with huge crowds at the events that we have. They directly see what happens in this community, which was the way they were designed to be. They're able to they can direct funding to meet specific needs of this area. A great example of that is the amount of growth we have here. I won't go into a lot of the growth statistics that I have, but about 83% of new growth in Jackson County is in this 30 square miles that the West Jackson Fire District covers. So that means that obviously there's going to be even more need and more traffic and more growth in this side of the county, and our elected officials are able to say, you know what, we can focus that on what's happening here in Houston, and I'll touch on that again here in a little bit. They're also accountable to property owners. You know, they all live here, so they pay the same taxes that you pay on the fire tax. So and of course you decide who gets to be there at the ballot. How can you reach them? They meet the second Tuesday of every month at 7 p.m. at our main station right here in town. It's on 69 West Jackson Road, Brazelton, which is actually in the city of Houston. And they have an email account that's board@wjfd.org, and if you email that, it goes to all of them. All right, moving on to the department. So basically, as I stated, the district directs and funds services. They oversee the finances and operations of the department. One of the things that I've always been big on is that our firefighters and officers, we have no access to district funds. So none of us can sign a check. So everything that we spend money on that we take from you by force every year is checked by our elected officials prior to, that being paid. So that's one thing that we have there that I would never want you to lose faith in your firefighters. So that's one way we keep that separation between us. And then of course the department provides the services the fire district dictates that they would like to see. How we serve the community. We're here for all intents and purposes to be the fire department of the city of Houston and the town of Brazelton. That's what our charter actually says, that we are the fire department for Houston and the town of Brazelton. Our drone team, as you can see there, it provides assistance for emergencies and non-emergency to our public safety partners. Quick touch on that. Our drone helps find missing persons. We've done a lot of those. And then also at the same time, when we have like a big event like the Fall Festival, our drone will sit on overwatch and just keep an eye out above the crowd to see what's happening. And that may be from everything from watching to see that, hey, did that kid that's kind of wandering that way, is the parent going to grab them, to, hey, someone broke into a car at the park. And that actually happened during the Brazelton 4th of July parade last year. And our drone was able to just turn and go that way and directly see what was going on before law enforcement could get a vehicle over there. The other thing we do with that is we can also assist with it with other items, like Brett Day is doing a public works presentation for you guys. Well, we used our drone to go fly over the water plant, so that way y'all didn't have to try to visualize what the top of that area looks like. So we work with our neighbors as much as we can on those kind of things. The public events and incidents, we do preparation and response for that. Actually, the video that's showing is from y'all's Bubble Day several years ago. We'll come to those events and pass out fire prevention stuff to the kids. Y'all's back to school event that y'all have in the city. We bring our safety trailer. If the kids come in there and get a safety message from us, we give them a coupon to get a free ice cream from one of the vendors that's here. So anything we can do to get more information out. The other side of that is we also have an event response team at the fire department, so that if the worst happens and someone decides to do something wrong or bad in Brazelton or Houston, in our Brazelton area, a Brazelton police officer rides with one of our tactical TIMS medics, so that if something does go wrong during one of their events, you have a law enforcement officer and a tactical medic co-located to start taking care of business. And that's something that we're hoping to expand to with the city of Houston now that they have a police department up and running and they've got some quality staffing. We also work with our local public safety people and the school system on a school system response plan. We were able to get the city, the county sheriff's office, EMA, the school system all on board with how to handle some kind of bad event that may happen at West Jackson Elementary. And then that same plan was actually set up as a template that Jackson County Schools can take that and use it with their law enforcement and other public safety partners on how to mitigate that type of incident anywhere in Jackson County. So we do a lot more than just respond out to fire calls and wrecks. We also have community outreach programs. We teach CPR. We teach Stop the Bleed. We teach first aid. We have other classes. We are a Waze government partner. What that means is traffic stinks, right? So we should all work together to see what we can do to help with that. One thing that our department did through Waze was when they started building the distribution centers back here where Uline is, truck traffic kept ending up coming right down West Jefferson Street. And so what we did is we worked with the city and got some signage put in place for no through traffic. And when that no through traffic sign was set up through Waze, we were able to say, this is no longer an address that you will ever be routed to unless you're physically going to an address on that street. Now, do the people that know? Absolutely. But it's just something that we did to help the city out with traffic issues there. We did the same thing with the White Trillium area, and we've done the same thing with the Crestwind cutting from Peachtree over to Highway 53. So being a Waze government partner, it does help with that. It also has it to where Jackson County GIS sends us all of the new addresses and street information as they apply them, and then we go in and add them to the map. So I would dare say that the most accurate map you can get to the city of Houston is probably through Waze, unless you're part of Jackson County GIS and have access to that. We have an After the Fire program. If you have a structure fire at your home and you don't know where to go, our department has a plan that we can assist you with a gift card per person that's affected. Because if you think about it, you don't know where you're going to stay tonight, but you also don't have a toothbrush. So we provide some funding in the way of gift cards that they can go and at least get, some toiletries, and then at the same time, We've tried very hard to work with La Quinta on getting it to where we could have a place for you to go to. There, and it's not to supplant the Red Cross. The Red Cross definitely takes care of the housing situation, so which is why we've stopped working with that. But it is something extra because we are right here in your community, and we don't want to drive away from a fire scene with you standing there wondering what to do now. We're also active shooter hostile event response program through here, which is back to like the school, but it's also open air environments. It's also the distribution centers that we have over in Brazelton. I actually went through the NFPA 3000 analysis program to be certified in reviewing that type of stuff. Because of that, our department has been requested to help evaluate other agencies when they do their full-scale incidents and say, hey, what did you see? What do you think we can do different? What can we do better next time? And then we also have the Deputy Lena Nicole Marshall Preparedness Grant. That's a grant for that any public safety agency in Jackson County can put in for. It's funded and started funding with our elected officials agreed to put $10,000 towards it, but we also take donations. That grant is set up to help with any kind of preparedness in the way of equipment, training, supplies. The IFACs they have in their cars are the first aid kits we have in there for them. If they want to get more of those, you can put in for the grant to get those. So we're going to have our first announcement of who receives that grant this November. We're pretty excited about that. All right. Some historical highlights. The early fire department didn't even have a fire station. If you want to know how close Houston and the West Jackson Fire Department are together, our original fire station was sitting out back of City Hall back here. And then winter came, and they were like, man, that's a lot of water to be sitting in a truck out in the cold. So then our second fire station was actually your Houston Depot. You can see an oil spot on the ground in there, unless that's been sanded and cleaned up, which I'm sure it has. But that was from our 1955 fire engine that the firemen threw in together and bought. When the district began in the early 70s, then they started working on, one, replacing a 20-year-old fire engine, and two, working on getting the station we have today. In 2007, we started our 24-hour staffing. In 2013, we got our medical license, so our department can actually act as paramedics and EMTs instead of only as first responders. So we have our own doctor that signs off on what our firemen are allowed to do out on calls. And that's good because the ambulance service is a county-wide function, and they're busy all the time. So if they're unable to get here in a timely fashion because there's other calls, we're able to step up and provide more than the regular fire department could perform in that same instance. In 2014, we started Fire Prevention Bureau. They handle plan review, fire marshal, fire inspections, public outreach, public education. They stay very busy. 2020, our ISO public protection class became a 3. We're pretty proud of that. In 2024, just this last year, we increased our staffing to 7 firefighter EMTs 24 hours a day. So where we are now, of course, myself, we have 3 shifts. 4896 is the shift they work. They're led by captains at Station 1 and a lieutenant at Station 2. Captain Joshua LeBlanc, he's our EMS officer. Lieutenant Shannon Martin, she's our fire marshal, and she has 2 members of her staff. Our Special Operations Division, that is everything from the drone team to our ERT to the TIMS medics for supplying for law enforcement. And then also, as this area has changed and we're starting to have more parks, I know there's a big push for green space, that creates a little different need for us because while we think it's great, you have water features there, like the new Tanner Park has a river that runs around it. If someone falls in the river, we need to be able to get them out. If someone gets way off in the woods, away or at a park, and there's you can't drive a fire engine across the park, then we have a side-by-side that we can use to go out, get the person, and bring them back. So our expectations go up along with what is approved and what's here. So our total staff is 29, and last year we ran 1,010 calls, which was a record. Our Station 1 is right here in town. It provides coverage for basically south of I-85. It houses Truck 31, which is staffed with 2 firefighter EMTs, and Squad 31 with 2 firefighters and EMTs. There's other apparatus there. And then that's also where my office is. Training is there. The fire district meets. Our finance and admin's there as well. Station 2 is actually very new. It's over on Ednaville Road in Brazelton. You can see its territory is basically north of I-85. And it houses Engine 32, which is staffed with 3 firefighter EMTs, and then some other apparatus. I won't go too far into growth, but our growth is tied directly to the 2 cities in the county. The reason why we're able to provide the level of service that we do is because the tax digest is large on this end of the county. In fact, while our fire department is only 9% of the area of Jackson County, if you take out Jefferson and Commerce and just base it on Jackson County schools, where a third of the value of property comes from. So we're only 16% of the population as of the 2020 census, but we're 1/3 of where the funding for Jackson County schools is located. Our residents are moving here from other areas, and they had staffed fire departmts, and they expect that. So it's another reason that we're staffed. And our local elected officials, they live here, so they see firsthand how this area has changed. If you ask Harry Bryan, who's our Houston rep, what things were like when he was a volunteer back in the 80s and 90s, he'll probably say, I don't even remember this place because it's so different. All right, so speaking of growth very quickly, our Station 1 area has 6,502 new homes approved, which is a 337% increase in housing from where we were at the 2020 census. Station 2 only has 1,050, so it's only a 43% increase. Actually, the north side of 85 used to be where the most population was, the Brazelton side, and where a lot of our calls were, and this end of our territory wasn't very busy. Of course, that's changed. Our elementary school has 1,290 students, and that's a 35% increase in students in the last 5 years. By comparison, the entirety of the city of Jefferson, if you think locally like that, the entirety of the city of Jefferson had about 4,200 houses in it at the last census. So how is this growth affecting the fire department? Well, 8 of the busiest months in the history of the department have occurred in the last 12 months. So basically every single month's the busiest month we've ever had. So in fact, the first quarter of this year is not over, and we've run 44 calls more than we ran the first quarter of even last year. So that's about half a month's worth of calls for us. Multiple incidents are occurring at the same time. When the poultry plant caught on fire back here 2 weekends ago, we actually had 2 car wrecks in the middle of that we had to also respond to. So the area is definitely it's getting busier. But it's not all bad news, right? We also have been able to put out more fire education to our school-age kids because of the back-to-school event, because of Fire Prevention Week in October at our schools, and then, Career Day over at the elementary school. It's more opportunities to provide training to adults like Crestwind. We've gone over there and done some CPR classes, plus some regular talks. We've done Stop the Bleed training. And it's also more opportunities to get involved with things like the Veterans Day event that we did at the Brazelton Library last year that the Crestwind Veterans Group put on. So we actually get out and see you and be a part of your community. And we're also keeping up. The tax digest, of course, allows for staffing, training, apparatus, stations, and equipment, and response times are not increasing. So even with all the growth we've had, we still have around a 6-minute response time between our 2 sides of the interstate. But in the short term, our response to some of this growth is we've started staffing increases at Station 1. The little guy on the left, that's Squad 31, and the big guy on the right, that is Truck 31. Obviously, Squad 31 can get around a little easier. It also carries water like a fire engine does. So anything from a car wreck to a medical emergency to a fire, that truck can still take care of business until its big brother gets there. We also have our Station 3 property. The property acquisition finished up at the end of last year. It's property out in Sam Freeman Road. If you're familiar with that area, it's to increase our coverage out towards Publix, improve response times south of 85 in this area, and then also it's going to have a training center for our firefighters and our public safety partners. And then Sam Freeman Road is a possible Highway 60 extension, which I know some of y'all, if you came to the GDOT open house, that was discussed there. We're also positioned for growth in the city. The city of Houston, part of the Kennerly property being annexed in, set aside some land for a possible public safety complex for us to use as a station. As your population center is kind of trending south, if you think about it, with more development coming that way, then your population center is no longer downtown. It's more like Chapina Boulevard and trending the other way. So that helps us be ready there. And then also, once again, to our tie-in to our two communities, the town of Brazelton's Public Facilities Authority is actually who built our Station 2 for us. We are paying the bond for it, but they made sure that that station was available sooner than later. In closing, the close connection to Brazelton and Houston, along with the West Jackson area, has allowed our department to grow alongside, the communities. If you look at this place 5 years ago versus yet today, it's a lot different, but at the same time, so are we. We've been able to grow right along with you guys, and we've had very supportive elected officials. We've had supportive local governments. We've had supportive community, and we intend to be here for the long run for you guys. We are working exactly the way the state legislature and the town in Houston designed us to be here for Houston and Brazelton when you need us. And we'll continue to be there for you guys in the future. And I'm done. Thank you.
Questions? Comments? Come on, Abe.
I want to pull on the string about growth.
Yes, sir.
How do you work with city planners and developers to ensure that your equipment is capable of going into a neighborhood and having the ability to turn around and use your apparatus? And I ask that because in the last couple of city council meetings, it's been a concern that's actually come up where the citizens are saying, when you build a rent community, you get a truck in there to support a fire should that happen.
Right.
That's question one. And then question two is, I understand we have a fire department in the correctional facility here, and that they augment you.
Correct.
And how's that relationship, and how's that work? What's their role? And if you could touch on, and I think it's a great program, but I'm all about rehabilitation.
Sure thing.
And how they're trained.
Okay. So to your first question, when the city or the town is looking at a new development, they contact us and ask us about about what like for instance, what's the longest truck you own and what's its turn radius. I know recently there was a change to one of the townhome developments up here where they're putting in a turnaround specifically because once we nose into that road, it's a dead end. There have been times in the past that wasn't always the case, but we're moving forward. One of the things that we are good at is working with our staff to let them know, hey, you need to take the truck down there and see how that's looking. And then we also keep an eye on if we go to subdivisions or we go into neighborhoods where we see a lot of cars parking in the street, then we'll say, we'll let him know, we'll let Brazelton Police Department know that, that won't stop us from getting to a fire. That I don't know if you saw the pictures of our trucks. They have really big bumpers on the front, and that's not just to hold hose. Georgia law actually allows the fire department to open or close a public roadway by any means necessary in an emergency, and the driver on the truck's really happy about hearing that every time I say it. So we will get to you. You may have an upset neighbor. We're not the ones, we probably won't bust out your window and run 5-inch hose through it like they do in some of the big cities unless we just have to. But that's number one, that's we do work with that. And then, of course, anything commercial or industrial, the fire marshal actually has to review their site plan and tell them this is going to work, this isn't going to work. I know that one development you actually mentioned has a dead-end street, and they're sprinklering those houses, and Shannon, the fire marshal, was out there this week looking at 2 of them to ensure that that was put in place, because I know it's been a concern to some of the citizens here. So we are working with that. The second part on the Correctional Institute fire team. So Jackson County is pretty lucky. They have they have basically they're prisoners, but they're not in there for singing too loud and choir. But at the same time, they're only about 1% of the prison population can even put in for it. Those guys are awesome. They are probably some of the best trained firefighters in Jackson County because they have time on their hands. I like to say they're a captive audience. So whenever we do training at the training center in Jefferson, they're like, and we're like, come on. So when they show up to fires, they show up to work. We treat them like any other firefighter that's on our crew with us because they will bust their butts for us when they're here. And when the fire's all said and done, they also will help us put all of our equipment back on the truck, which is awesome. If you've never rolled up 5-inch hose at 3 o'clock in the morning when you're tired and you're hungry and you're ready for something else, those guys are like, yep, we got it. So it is a good program. Those guys, when they get out, since they serve honorably in that position, they are eligible to work as firefighters. And I do believe that a couple of them have ended up as firefighters in Georgia. Yes, sir.
About 20 years ago in Houston, City Hall would get comments and complaints pretty regularly about people having no water pressure. What happened to my shower? You know, this would happen at peak user times, like in the morning. And we had a lot less people then, and we only had one water tower. Now we got a lot more people and a better water system. But do we have enough water to fight a major fire at certain times of the day? How do you feel about our ability to do that? They used to, I guess they still do, go around and mark fire hydrants with color codes to indicate their capacity. I guess that still goes on.
Yes, sir.
How do you feel about our water supply?
So the water system, yes, you have a lot more people here, and it's my understanding that your pump probably runs all day trying to keep the tower here in town going. You have the new tank that's down by the firehouse that's waiting on a pump to where it can start being used. But at the same time, the water pressures are actually better. So between some upgrades that have taken place with the water system, the tie-in between Brazelton, for instance, they're able to still have very good water pressure. To be honest with you, I was actually very surprised because there was a time that the hydrants in Houston were, if you look at the colors on the top, the colors all mean something. A black hydrant means it doesn't even work, so you don't want those. A red hydrant means it can put out less than 500 gallons a minute. And if you go up, it becomes orange. Orange is from 501 to 1,000. A green hydrant is from 1,001 to 1,500, and a blue is anything above 1,500 gallons a minute.
Yeah.
So our guys, when we fight fire, the other night at the poultry plant fire, we were running 3 hand lines and and eventually had the aerial running, and our water pressure was strong. Of course, that's over in the Brazelton area near the water plant. But when the guys do training and they go out and they flow water, they're not seeing huge drops in water pressure. Like you start testing water at this end of the street, and by the time at the end of the street, it's just kind of barely coming out. That isn't a problem. I think that there's always room for improvement. But at the same time, I'm confident that if there was a structure fire of significant size in Houston, that we would have enough water to get there and take care of business. The other side of that is thankfully, since we are staffed, a staffed fire department, we have 7 guys on duty. They'll get there and knock it out. And then, that's one of the things I always talk about, how aggressive my firemen are, and I mean that in a good way. But one of the things I always say is that we're aggressive because we have to be. We're too little to let it get big. So we have to get there quick and get it knocked out, because the safest thing we can do, of course, is have no fire. And then everything else around us is infinitely safer.
Yeah, that's good to know. Personally, my water pressure in my house is better than it was 20 years ago. But I didn't know what the big picture was.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, sir. Nope, no more. Okay, very quickly, the mayor had asked about the charter school. I'll give you my opinion on that. And this is the Ben Stevens opinion, not the Chief Stevens opinion. Traffic sucks here. It just does. It always takes the school system the first couple of weeks to get their ducks in a row. Parents figure out the best way to get to the schools and get away. You know, the charter school, to me, honestly, I don't know how that would make the traffic worse. Traffic is backed up from the 85 bridge all the way down to probably downtown Winder every single day, regardless if school's in session, if school's not in session. I will tell you that the fire department does not plan on building any more fire stations next to schools, because you know there is a lot of traffic that comes with that. There's 2 times a day that we'll have cars backed up all the way to the firehouse coming off of West Jackson Road, where Station 1 is, and Station 2 doesn't have that problem. Our Station 3 won't have that problem. But so far as the charter school itself being a hindrance to the fire department, to be honest with you, I don't think that additional amount of vehicles is going to change the specifics of us getting out to answer fire calls. Our guys have plans to use different routes. We know certain times of the day we can't go this way to get that way. We have to go this way and come back around. You know, so I really have no real opinion on the charter school's traffic impact.
Any other questions? Y'all feel safe now? Everybody good?
I have one thing to add, because I did mean to put it in my presentation when I saw Chief Stevens' numbers. So a lot of people ask, how many calls do you actually run as the Houston Police Department? You know, we see y'all sitting on Highway 53 running traffic. How do you have time to do that if you're answering calls? So the only way we can keep up with calls and numbers is through the 911 dispatch. We're all dispatched through the same center, 911 over in Jefferson. So as of right now, as of yesterday, we're around 640 calls for the year. And, you know, you're like, well, that doesn't sound very much. Well, there's only 3 of us full time. So that's a lot of calls for 3 people. We were, you know, running 4. We just had one decided to leave and go to another agency. But you're looking, when they give us that case number, that's anything from vehicle stops to your standard alarm. It could be anything. But we don't fluff those numbers. A lot of departments call out what they call extra patrols to try and fluff their numbers to make it look like they're doing more than what they are. We don't. The only time we get a case number is if we're actually stopping a car or going to a call. So as of yesterday, we're around 640 calls that we've answered in the city of Houston, just me and my officers. So that's just a little fun fact to the end for you.
I've got one last comment to make as well, Mayor. I had a couple of residents message me that weren't able to make it tonight and wanted me to pass along this message, and I think I speak for majority of the citizens. While we've got issues in this city, like any other city that mayor, council, city staff are working on, we live in a very safe and caring community, and it's thanks to these 2 men up here and Judge Green and Kevin McCook, who's running for sheriff. I see him in the back, and others that are here tonight. We appreciate y'all being here. I know that y'all don't get thank you for everything that you do, so thank you from myself and a lot of the other residents. We appreciate it.